Hey girl, hey, this is Dr. Tasha Rogers. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Go back, watch the videos, entertain yourself, learn some stuff, and join the channel. If you have not hit, but before we even get started, I need y'all to hit the like button, okay? And be ready to share this, just be ready. But it's gonna get deep today. But I was wondering, so a friend of mine was like, you don't really talk a lot about yourself. I'm like, damn, get on my channel to hear about me. But do y'all want to be up in my business a little bit? Somebody was like, you always dress so fire and you don't post your videos. Like, do y'all want to see what I be wearing? Let me know. Because if I can remember, I'll put my meta glasses on and I'll take y'all through my outfits. But let me know, because this summer, y'all, I'm gonna need y'all help a little bit because I'm outside. So if you got a rich uncle, a rich daddy, rich granddaddy, because the girl is 50 plus. But please make sure they single, because I can't fight. I'm not trying to be out here with y'all German shepherds fighting and squabbling. I'm not doing it. I'm not going back and forth. I'm not squabbling with no female to get a social security check. I'm not doing all that, okay? So if you got somebody who is looking for that fly girl who he wants to spoil, y'all drop down in my comments, okay? And not too unattractive. Okay, I'm just saying. Anyway, okay, so now we've gotten all the housekeeping out. So let me know if y'all want to be known with the girl with the fits be, because the fits be fitting. And you want to know a little bit about my life, let me know, because I want y'all to know I want y'all to know who y'all listening to. But today is a little bit more of a serious video, and y'all know me, I'm gonna make light of the situation, but it's very serious. It's serious for a lot of you guys, which means it's serious for me. Today's video is about how do you have that talk with your partner when you have a diagnosis that is lifelong, that could affect them. And this is something that is so difficult for people. I see so many women who, like, seriously, legitimately, they will stop dating. They will stop dating. They will just kind of be a hermit, like they're on an island by themselves. And if you want to know specifically what the two things that are major are HIV and herpes, okay, genital herpes. Those are the two really big ones and not really big ones, not that it's big, but those are the two things that women have a very difficult time having conversations with. And interestingly, they have a more difficult time having a conversation about herpes than HIV. Either they will not discuss the HIV at all, and their partners are not aware, or they have full disclosure and they're like, honey, yep, I got it, and I'm undetectable, and they're very open about it. It's one or the other. And I've experienced both type of patients. And it's not for me to say whether something is right or wrong. But I want to talk about the HIV component first, right? Because interestingly, that's the easiest one to talk about. So first and foremost, one of the biggest things for me, a lot of times, people have difficulty because you don't truly understand what your starting point is or what somebody else's starting point is. And when I say starting point, if you're a patient in my practice, if you've heard me speak, if you've seen me in the office, one of the biggest things for me is making sure you're getting tested and making sure you're not just your partner's getting tested, but you're seeing their testing. People can tell you anything, and it's not that they're being malicious. Sometimes people are just ridiculous in the space of, no, I'm good, I ain't got nothing, I'm clean. And you like, okay with me? Yeah, really? Why is that okay with you? So we have to have a starting point, and especially if it's a new sex partner, you want to make sure they're getting tested, and you want to make sure you're seeing the testing, and vice versa. You want to make sure that you are showing them your testing, okay? So women tend to have issues with full disclosure. And when I say issues, I don't mean in a negative sense. I mean, y'all want to disclose everything about yourself. Y'all sit down like, my drawers is pink. I don't like purple bras. I eat chitlins with hot sauce but no vinegar. I have this infection. Okay. And that's the end of the conversation. Like, you ain't asked him nothing about him. You ain't asked him when's the last time he was checked. You ain't asked when the last time when he peed in a cup. I'm going to give y'all a little secret, okay? Males don't like to go to the doctor. They don't. And I'm going to tell you, back in like the 80s, you know, we've come a long way. But back in like the 80s, when males used to go to the doctor, they used to stick a little Q-tip in their penis, like the tip of their penis. They would stick a little Q-tip in there, swab it around to check for like gonorrhea, chlamydia, and then they would draw blood. So you know how things are in our community. Somebody went for that test. It was not good. It was not comfortable. Baby, he brought that thing back, and ain't a man since been that way. And didn't want to go for the testing. So a lot of times they were like, no, I got tested, and they're lying, and they're not trying to be malicious. They're just afraid. But somebody needs to tell them, sweetie, all you got to do is piss in a cup and get some blood drawn, get it together. It is easier for a male to get tested and get diagnosed with stuff than a woman. But at the same time, let's say we're in a space where, and I don't care whether you're male or female, I'm not speaking from a gender perspective right now. I'm speaking from a patient perspective. Whatever, if you have a status, if you just got your status, or if you've had your status for a while, the most important thing is an understanding of your diagnosis, and making sure you're fully understood and you're read in, and you're comfortable with your treatment plan, and you're comfortable with your providers, and oftentimes that will give you the confidence to speak about your diagnosis in a way that, because whatever you say, it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it as well. Okay, and whoever you're talking to, trust me, they clocked in. They are clocked in. They listening. Like, what's she about to say? What he about to say? They are clocked in and listening. Okay, so you need to speak with an air of confidence. One thing that I'm going to tell you is you cannot change somebody's mind. I know that you may like this person, you may love this person, you may have considered building a future with this person. This is why it's so important to get this testing and to get this information early, okay? You may really, really want this person, but you don't know what traumas this person has had. You don't know what triggers this person has. And if this person is not willing to stay with you, be understanding, you gotta be okay with that, and you gotta let them go. And that just means that that's not your person. Okay, doesn't mean that you won't ever have a person, because to be perfectly honest, I've had a bunch of people that were diagnosed. I have a bunch of people who have come to me and had already had a diagnosis, and we kind of talked through it. We had some, back and forth and pros and cons, and ultimately everybody who ended up having a conversation with their partners didn't leave. So don't just assume, oh, they on it, they out the door. That's not true. Okay, so let's have this convo. Now, a couple of things when it comes to HIV. This is not 100%, but most of the time, okay, males do not contract HIV from females. Males contract HIV for the most part from other males. So if you are a female that happens to be positive, and you want to discuss that with your male partner, that's a fact you need to know. This is why I say you got to get learned. You have to get information on your diagnosis. So this is what you need to know. This is something that you need to go in that conversation with. Facts. Because if it's me, right? Something in my eye. If it's me, y'all, and somebody's bringing some information to me, I'm going to think. The thing that's going to be most important to me, I'm going to think, am I going to get this? How likely am I to get this? Like, I got to be worried about my own health, right? Because as individuals, we're selfish that way. So what you need to be focused on in the conversation is basically how you want to be open and honest, but you also want to have the facts and details about how you can and are willing to protect them. Okay. Also, just like when you first got your diagnosis, stigma. What are people going to think? What are people going to say? How are people going to feel about me? How are people going to judge me? It's stigma. They're going to feel the same thing. Meaning, okay, what are people going to say when they know my girl or my dude has HIV? Like, are they going to feel like, I'm going to get it? Like, you shouldn't be with her. Stigma. So I think that it's very important also that you are very clear on whether you are open about your diagnosis, whether other people know about your diagnosis. They're going to want to know that. Okay. I hate it, but we do have to play to the stigma of this thing. And that's ultimately how you're going to get the clarity and be able to have the discussion that you want to have, okay? And like I said, it needs to be a serious discussion, but you need to make sure you have their statuses initially. And once you ask them for their stuff, you need to say, hey, listen, we need to sit somewhere quiet, alone, and let's have a conversation, okay? And you need to kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say tell the story, but if you are aware of the story, or if you know, a lot of people have no idea where they picked it up from. A lot of people have no idea. They just happen to randomly, okay, I'll get a test, and we're diagnosed. And they have no idea. And if that's your story, that's your story. But whatever your story for diagnosis is, I think you should share that story. And you start the conversation and say, so listen, I wanted to be very honest with you. I respect you that much, and I care about you that much. And whatever happens at the end of this conversation, I accept it. And that needs to be the first line. Okay? You're not guilting anybody into staying and being with you. You're not a charity case. You just simply have a medical condition that, praise God, in 2025 is easily treatable and controllable, right? And so you don't need to feel like a doormat or less than a person, or feel like you have to tolerate any particular thing for somebody to stay. We're not doing that. We're not doing that at all, okay? So, and I want to be very clear about that. And so you just simply say, I want to be honest. I respect you enough that I feel like this is a discussion that we can have, and I respect your choices and I respect your feelings. So, and you're back in whatever, and you go to tell your story, and then what you need to say is, and then clearly say, and I've been diagnosed with HIV. I have been positive since this time, and I am completely undetectable. And completely undetectable means that I cannot transmit it to another person. I cannot. And then you just break down the facts. Like, it's recommended that the partner of somebody who is HIV positive is on PrEP. And you can get an injection every 2 months. You can take a pill every day, but it's recommended that you're on PrEP. But technically, I cannot transmit it to you if I'm undetectable. If you're a female, you can also say, and the vast majority of the time, 80 to 90% of the time, males do not get HIV from females. They get it from other males. It's not to say that it absolutely can't happen, but the fact that I'm a female and the fact that I'm detectable, the chances of you getting it are slim and none. Okay? And you just kind of hit them with the facts. Again, why it's important to know the facts about what it is. And if you have an infectious disease doctor or whoever it is that is managing your HIV, get this information if you don't have it. You should be walking around being able to advocate for yourself and preach this information. So make sure you have the information. Now, a couple of things with respect to fairness. Do not, first of all, if a person hears this, they're going to be very shocked. Okay, they're going to be shocked. Give them a second. You may need to give them a minute. You may need to give them a day or two. Okay, you may need to put it out there and say, listen, I respect whatever choices you make, and I would love to be with you. I would love to whatever. I would love to see where this goes, but just let me know what you're comfortable with, what your comfort level is. Okay, they may want to leave and go do some research on their own, whatever the case may be, but put it out there. Be direct. Don't laugh, don't joke, don't be crying, because it's not that it's not a sad situation. Let me correct what I'm saying. You're not in a life or death situation like you would have been in 1985. That's not where you are here in 2025, okay? And so don't give it a sense of gloom and doom. Give it what it needs. Is honest, curt, open, respectful dialogue. And again, you don't need to beg for anybody to stay in your life. If they're not comfortable and they want to walk out, bye-bye. And know that it's not that it's easy for me to say, but the point is that would you rather a life of abuse and disrespect and making somebody feel like you're lucky that they stayed? Like, that's not okay either, because why should you feel like a second-class citizen? It happens, okay? So that is something that I want that you be very clear about. And, you know, once that person says, okay, I want to stay, I want to do this, they're going to have questions like, well, can we have a baby? Yep, you sure can. You can have a baby. Again, me transmitting to you is slim and none, and blah, blah, blah. You'll get regular testing, whatever the case may be. I'll be on medication when I'm pregnant, and then, you know, medication when I'm in labor, and then they'll check baby and blah, 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 blah. The whole kit and caboodle, the whole process. And if you look at, again, if you don't know, then you sit with whoever is managing your HIV together as a couple and get those answers, okay? So, again, that is how you do it. But now, when do you have this conversation? I am a proponent of doing it before you have sex, because then I feel like, or if you are going to have sex, please have protected intercourse, because again, people only understand the stigmas associated with HIV. So they're gonna feel like you tried to give them HIV, and you know, you had sex with me and you had sex raw and you knew you had HIV, and no, I can't get past that. Well, you know, if you don't understand much about it, I probably would feel a little betrayed too. So those are things that you consider. And at the same time, what did I tell you? Before you're having sex with somebody, you should be seeing their STD testing. So the timing should kind of all be linked up and going up in there together. Does that make sense? But yes, you don't want to be in a sexual relationship with somebody for 3, 4, 5 months and then say, maybe I should tell them. And you've been doing it raw. Like, I don't even know how that would go, because yeah, I don't even know how that will go, because you wanna be open and honest and be completely honest. You don't want to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna just tell them I just got diagnosed and blah 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 blah. So you're starting off with the lie. At some point, the lie is gonna catch up with you. They're gonna feel like if you lied on one level, you lied on multiple levels. So there's that. Now, I do have patients I've come across that are not open about their status. They won't be open about their status. They're not on meds, and they may or may not be undetectable, and they don't want to discuss it with their partners. In a lot of states, that is illegal. It is not illegal in the state of Georgia, as nothing else in the world is. Child, the state don't want me out. Anyways, so it is not illegal here, but it is illegal in a lot of places. You can find yourself up on charges. And I wouldn't recommend it anyway, because if it happens to come out, or you happen to really be in a situation where you want to be with that person, you're really caring about that person, you want to stay with that person, and now all of a sudden after 3, 6, 9 months you want to be open and honest about it, that can really lead you in a situation of being hurt or potentially losing your life. And again, a lot of it is based on stigma, but that's still not the point, you know. So just I feel you may not necessarily legally have a responsibility to be open and honest about your status, but I feel a couple of things. If you don't want to be open and honest about your status, please make sure you're having protected intercourse at all times, and make sure that your levels are undetectable. I feel like that's the best way that you can protect yourself from harm, and the best way that you can protect your partner from becoming positive. At least if you don't want to disclose your status, at least have enough respect that if you're going to have, because we haven't protected sex, well, condoms break, okay? But if this is something you're going to do, at least be in treatment so that you can remain undetectable, so that your risk of transmitting HIV to another person is nil. Okay, so that's how I feel. If it's something that you're not going to discuss, you will never discuss it, you don't want to be open enough to discuss it, then at least do what you got to do to protect yourself and others around you. Because otherwise, if you know your status is positive, you're not really on any medication, you're having unprotected sex, and you don't want to disclose your status, you're just a piece of shit person at that point. And I'm sorry if this is somebody who's watching and that's what you're doing, you're a piece of shit person. And if that makes me bad for saying it, then I'm gonna be bad for saying it, because that's just not okay. We've come too far with treatment. People who went through this 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, they really didn't have that option. They don't have the options that you have, and they suffer so that you could have options and at least be respectful to yourself and others. And I'm gonna leave that alone. So there is the HIV discussion. Now, herpes is a little bit different, okay? Although more people, and like I said, 80% of the population over 40, and I'm talking African Americans, are positive for herpes, right? And this is genital herpes we're talking about. So I tell people all the time, I might disclose chlamydia once or twice a month. I have a herpes discussion about 4 times a day. It's that prevalent. So you're not on an island by yourself. Don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. And the good news is that people are starting to kind of come around and understand and talk about herpes a little bit more and have a little bit more information pertaining to herpes. They're starting to get it. So I think that is a good thing as well. Again, with herpes, if you're somebody who you're positive and it's just been bothering you, you feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed, it's nothing I can really do about that. Please go back and watch my herpes video. And get some information and get some knowledge under your belt about it. And please go back and watch that. Please, please, please. But either way, we're in a situation right now where we got to have the conversation, or we're wanting to have the conversation. First of all, like I said a minute ago, full disclosure needs to be full disclosure. Full disclosure doesn't need to be you expressing every bit of your medical record and not requesting or seeing any part of anybody else's medical information. That ain't full disclosure. That's just being a pick-me, and it annoys me, okay? So at the end of the day, when you're with a new partner, and you say, hey, listen, let's get tested, and tell them, make sure you get tested for herpes as well, okay? Because oftentimes a lot of these doctors, I'm testing for everything. It don't be everything. And you have to specifically say, I want to be tested for this. I want to be tested for this. And oftentimes make sure you say, hey, can you please include a herpes test? Have you had any symptoms? No. But could you please still include a herpes test? Thank you. Okay. And so if you know that you're positive and you see that the person who you are about to get into something with, you see their result, they are negative. Okay. I feel that you don't necessarily have a responsibility. Like I said, HIV is something that can impact somebody's life, their well-being, if they don't take their medication, if they don't get into treatment, if they're not aware. Excuse me, I always say herpes is skin deep, child. Herpes is skin deep. Ugly is to the bone, but herpes is skin deep. So I'm not one of those, you have to. So first of all, if this is a new partner and you see that this person does not have herpes, again, out of respect, you need to have a conversation and give that person the right to decide whether they want to be in something with you or not. So what? If they won't, honey, like I said, you see how much I didn't diagnose this. I don't know that I have ever seen anybody's partner who's like, peace, I got to go. Never. I ain't gonna say it doesn't happen. I'm gonna just say I've never had a patient express that to me, okay? So it ain't like they jumping up and running out the front door. But at the end of the day, to express some respect, I think it's like, hey, we need to talk. And it's like, listen. And then you, again, start quoting the facts. Hey, tell your story. Hey, went to the doctor on whatever. And some people have a story, like I had a little something, looked a little funny. And I'm like, hey, what's going on down here? And I got a test, and it came back that it was herpes. And you just say, I don't have very many outbreaks, maybe 1 or 2 a year. The transmission rate is not 100%. So it's not like everybody you have sex with is going to get herpes. The transmission rate is only 5%. So I don't frequently have outbreaks. The transmission rate is only 5%. Yes, I can give it to you just like somebody gave it to me, but again, it's rare. It's about contact, not about intercourse, so I have no idea where I picked it up from. It does not mean I was a thought. It does not mean any of that. And as we age, our risk of getting it just increases. Males have outbreaks on the inside of their penis, so it's just, you want to tell your story. Okay, let them know, hey, listen, I want to talk to you. Be serious. You want to tell your story, okay? And not all, oh, woe is me, I need pity. No, tell your story, okay? And then start dropping facts as to how they can be protected, as to how your issue does not necessarily have to become their issue. All the things, just have that information and then say, hey, listen, I understand. Whatever decision you make about going on in this relationship or not, I respect it, I understand it, and it is what it is. I can't be anybody other than who I am. Okay, and that has to be good enough. And if that's not good enough for that person, again, that is not your person. All right? So, I hope this basically kind of answered a lot of questions. And like I said, and as far as the herpes is concerned, if this is somebody you already in a relationship with, y'all been in a relationship for a while, and you finally found a doctor who decided to test you for herpes, and you have no idea when you picked it up, no idea how long you had it, you've never seen his herpes result, you don't have frequent outbreaks. In a situation like that, I'm like, child, just let sleeping dogs lie. Just let sleeping dogs lie. And the reason I say that is because, again, you don't know whether you had herpes when you met him, whether he had it when he met you, whether it was picked up in a relationship. You don't know, and you'll never know. But when you go home to a doctor with the result and a diagnosis, and again, males, he may have never had an outbreak. He may have had an outbreak on the inside of his penis. He's never seen anything. But when you go home with a diagnosis, he's going to assume that is your diagnosis. And even if he's like, I'm going to the doctor and get a blood test and it comes back positive, he's then going to, well, ain't nobody never told me I had this. Anybody never said they got this from me. I ain't never seen nothing. So then he's going to assume that you gave it to him. And it might be quiet for a while, but honey, let y'all have a fight. Or let something go down. It's going to be like, you lucky I stayed when I found that out anyway. Or there's going to be an underlying, have you been cheating on me? And it's so far away from that. It is so far from that. So oftentimes I'm like, if nobody's bothered by it, we're not having frequent outbreaks, nobody would have never known you had it unless somebody like me comes along and does a test and finds it. Sometimes in situations like that, you have to just let sleeping dogs lie. And I would not necessarily recommend. And hey, listen, you have to do what you want to do. This is not about me. You got to do what you want to do. If you 30 years into your marriage and you find it and you like, the doctor said, baby, do what works for you. But it is no reason to be running down a paternity court with the Cutlers, Judge Mathis court, or nobody else's court. The Jerry Springer show, rest his soul. It is not worth all of that for something that could have possibly been present in the both of you before you met each other. And now you disrupted a happy home because of supposing and what ifs and questions that can never be answered. This is why it's important to get the information up front. Get it up front so you know what you're dealing with. No, you know what the starting point is. Get it up front. You heard me? Okay, so I hope this blessed somebody. I hope this helps somebody. And like I said, the blueprint is getting the information about your diagnosis. Make sure you have all the facts about your diagnosis. Talk to somebody trusted who is managing your diagnosis and taking care of you. Get the facts and the details. Okay, make sure your person is getting tested and y'all are exchanging test results. And then you say, hey, I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind, something that, I need you to hear me. I want to talk to you. If you have to get out of your environment, go talk to them. Tell your story. Don't beg for nothing. Don't lie. Just tell your story. And then at the end of that, say, and I tested positive for what do you say? I'm living healthy with HIV. I tested positive for herpes. And then go on and say, I'm undetectable, I'm this, I'm that. Then tell them all about you. And then tell them how that they can be protected, or they will be protected, or just all the stuff. And then, let them know I respect whatever your position is and however you feel and however you want to move from here. And then say, I'm willing to answer any questions that you have, and then go from there. And don't get all in a tizzy and they decide, listen, I gotta go. Let them. It was a lot to hear. It was a lot to hear, no matter what the diagnosis was. It was a lot to hear. Let them go. Let them breathe. Let them process it. Give them space. Give them time. And if they spin the block and they're like, listen, I'm sorry I left like that. Okay, don't hold it against them. It wasn't anything against you. That's just a lot. And if they never spin the block again, well, you dodged a bullet, because that just lets you know where that person was coming from in the very beginning. Because if there's somebody that really likes you and cares about you, if they can't get past that, sweetie, that's who you are. That's who you are. It's a part of you. That's who you are. And if they can't get past that, that's okay. They can't accept you for who you are, and you don't need them. Okay? So, again, I hope this blessed somebody. I hope you got the blueprint. And you guys stay safe out there and remain respectful to all involved. And don't be so thirsty to be with somebody that you're inadvertently hurting them, trying to protect your own image, because that's what it is. And again, let's have these discussions if they need to be had. All right? All right. Thanks for joining Dr. Tasha After Dark.